Hey everybody, my name is Jen, the Caffeinated Crafter, and this is going to be a Flosstube Extra. We are going to be talking about the Great British Bake Off game. And if you don't know what that's all about, I am here to tell you. Okay, so those who do know, we're going to be discussing what the stitch counts are, who the bakers are, that way you guys, and I'll show you which whips I'm going to do for my version. That way you guys can kind of start getting your stuff together if you want to play along. So we're going to be discussing all of that stuff here in this video, so I have no idea how long this is going to be. Let's start with what it's all about and who started this game. I am not the creator of this. Let's just be clear. Let's just put that out there. Jessie Marie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff is the one that created this game. So all the credit goes to her. I took the game and I twisted it to fit what was working for me. I decided to start next year to do it as kind of like a stitch along because this in 2025 I was doing Monopoly and people were playing along with me. I told them what to stitch and they picked their own whips and they stitched it. So we're going to do that for Bake Off next year. So because I usually do the new season every year. But God, okay. I keep forgetting what I want to say. So like I said, this was created by Jessie Marie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff. And this game is being stitched along with the Great British Bake Off, which is a show on Netflix. That is a baking competition show that's filmed over in England, UK. I don't know where exactly it's filmed. It's filmed over in the England area. I can't remember where it's filmed, but the judges are Paul Hollywood and Prue Leith. They have 12 bakers, and every week a baker gets eliminated until there's a winner. What I love about this show is that it is so un-American with the way that the competitors are. They are just so easygoing. They're competitive, but in a healthy way. There's no backstabbing. There's no talking shit about each other. They're all happy for the wins. They're all sad when somebody loses. Like, it's really great. And I think my eyeball itches. I think part of it is the fact that there is no monetary prize. You know what they get? They get bragging rights and a cake stand that says the Great British Bake Off on it. Like, there's no monetary prize. They're not winning $25,000 or anything like that. So it's like, they just get to say they're the best baker in the UK. Like, that's it. So what we're going to do is, starting with the first Flosstube in January that I do, I'm going to announce who got what on week 1 of Collection 5. So Collection 5 on Netflix is the year that was, the one that was filmed in the year 2017. I'm going to go over the stitch counts and we're going to go over the bakers and I will show you the whips I have assigned to each baker. So every week on Bake Off, there's 3 sections of the show. The first section, they do a signature bake where they give them a brief of like, bake some cinnamon rolls, bake a fruity cake, you know, bake some kind of like bread or whatever the brief is, right? And they do their signature bake. And then the judges go around and they, you know, critique the bakes. And sometimes Paul Hollywood will think that the bake is so good or so inventive, something he hasn't had before, or just sheer perfection, and he will give them a handshake. And it's a really big deal for him to give out a handshake. And so that's a thing. And then the second section of the episode is what's called a technical challenge, and it's a blind judging. So Paul and Prue leave the tent. The hosts will tell the bakers what the technical bake is, and they don't know, like they don't know what the bake is. They have no clue. But they tell them what the technical bake is. The bakers have X amount of minutes or hours to do the technical bake, and then it's judge blind. So they'll bring their bakes up to the front bench. They put it behind their photo, which is facing away from the judges. Then once they've all put that down and they're all like lined up or whatever, the judges come in. They don't see who baked what. They just judge the bakes accordingly, and they rate them from the worst to the best. So that's the thing. And then in the third section is the signature. What's it called? The final showstopper. The showstopper bake. And they have another brief, and it has to be this big grand bake, and they are judged off, they get critiqued for that. And it's usually some big huge bake that they have to do, and then they get critiqued on that, and then the judges decide over the course of the weekend who did the worst and who did the best, and someone gets sent home and someone is announced the star baker of the week. So they won that week. I mean, you could get star baker one week and then go home the next week. So it's not like a running tally usually, or ever. But here are going to be the stitch counts for what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over the stitch counts, and then we'll talk about how you can adjust the stitch counts. So for the handshakes, for the Paul Hollywood handshakes, now sometimes he will give a handshake in the showstopper challenge. It's hardly ever he does that. Hardly ever. But he does do it occasionally. So anytime in that episode, if there is a handshake, then that baker's whip will get 50 stitches. For the technical bakes, the middle section, the technical bake, whoever gets last in technical, their whip will get 100 stitches. Whoever gets first in technical, their whip will get 150 stitches. 150 stitches. Let's clarify that a little bit better. Last in technical is 100. First in technical is 150. And then the third section where they do the showstopper and they announce the winner and the loser, the person who gets eliminated is going to get, the person who gets star baker, they will get 200 stitches on their whip. The person who gets eliminated will get 300 stitches on their whip. They get more stitches on the eliminated whip because their whip is done. It's not going to be in play anymore for the rest of the season. And then I did do some adjustments for the finale. I said, so the final episode, there's 10 weeks in each season. And the final episode, the grand finale, has always been 3 bakers going into the finale. They do the same setup, so there's still potential for handshakes. There's still a technical challenge, so that's going to stay the same. And then the thing that's different is, and they still do the showstopper, but the thing that's different is that they don't, obviously 2 people go home, and then they announce the winner. But since that's the final episode, what I decided is for the finale, the losers, the people who didn't win, the 2 who didn't win, they will get 200 stitches each on their whips, and the winner of that season will get 500 stitches on their whip. And then once that season's done, we're going to take a break for probably 2 weeks, so that if you're behind on your stitches, because I know I might be, but we'll take a break for 2 weeks. And then that 3rd week, we'll start up the next season. So in that 2-week time frame, I will also post another video like this one, going over the next season's bakers. So how can you adjust these stitch counts? You can adjust these, you can do exactly what I'm doing, because every week in my regular floss tube, I will tell you, okay, for my first floss tube of the year, I'm going to say, okay, for week 1, blah, 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 blah. And I'll do a rundown of if anyone got a handshake, who got last in technical, who got first in technical, and who was star baker and who got eliminated. And I'll do that every week, up through the finale. And you can do, and I'll tell you which pieces will get what, because they'll be in my plans part. It'll be in my plans. So I'll tell you which ones need what stitches, like which bakers need what stitches. So you can just do what I say. You can just do what I tell you to do. But if those stitch counts are too much for you, because I know not everybody, not everyone counts their stitches. Not everybody stitches as much as I do. I tried to make it low enough where it was doable. But if you don't count your stitches, you could do a thread, like a length of thread for each event that occurs. If you just stitch by time, you could do maybe 30 minutes on handshakes, last and technical, and maybe an hour for first and technical and star baker, and then 2 hours for the eliminated baker. Like if you don't like to count your stitches, you could do it by time. If you like to do a lot of stitches, I know Alara told me she wants to do this with me, but she's not really a low stitch count kind of person. When she pulls a whip out, she likes to do a lot of stitches. I told her, I said, you could probably double the stitch count, or even triple it if those numbers aren't working for you. So you could always increase the number of stitches and just kind of use like what I'm doing as like a guideline for how much difference the stitches would be. And again, you could just do what I'm doing. Okay, so collection 5, like I said, this is 2017. If you're watching it on something other than Netflix, if you have a way to watch it outside of the US, and its number, because this is not season 5. This is Netflix's collection 5. So this is not season 5. This had already been, I want to say it might be like maybe season 8 or 9. I don't know. It was pretty far along. But this is collection 5 on Netflix. So 2017. The bakers these are in alphabetical order. I'm like starting to shiver because the air conditioning vent is right above my head and it just kicked on and now it's blowing on me. Oh my God. The bakers are in alphabetical order: Chris, Flo, James, Julia, Kate, Liam, Peter, Sophie, Stacey, Stephen, Tom, and Yan. I will list them in the description box down below so you have a reference point. I will also put my stitch counts that I'm going to do in the description box down below so you can kind of, write them down for yourself. So how I picked whips was I went through my pieces. I actually pulled, I've changed the whips I'm going to work on for this like 3 times now, but now I finally got it. I went through and I just started, like, I was looking on my list and then I was just thinking about it. And then finally this time I was like, let me just look through these and see if these are what I really want to do. And I started looking through and I changed my mind, flipped some stuff around, and now I got it. So I picked 12 whips that I wanted to work on this season. Excuse me. And I put them in alphabetical order and I matched them up to my alphabetical list of the bakers. And that's how, that way, because this is my comfort show. I watched this season of Bake Off more than anything else. I already know who wins. I already know who gets handshakes. I know who goes home first. I didn't want to like cheat, if you could call it that. I didn't want to cheat. So I listed them all alphabetically and then I just matched them up alphabetically to the other bakers. So, yeah. Okay, so let's go over which pieces I'm going to be working on for collection 5. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say is at the end of this collection, before we start collection 6, if you wanted to swap your whips out at the end of the season, you totally could. If you wanted to keep them the same, you totally could. I may or may not swap whips out. God, this AC is like, it's like blowing right on me. Now I'm getting cold. So anyway, I may or may not swap whips out. It depends on how I feel. Because of course the ones who progress further in the show, their whips are going to get a lot more attention. I may be sick of those whips by the end of the season. Who knows? But let's go ahead and show what I'm going to, which whips I'm going to use for Bake Off. So for Chris, is going to be All Hallows Eve by Erica Michaels, and that is what it's going to look like when it's done. And this is my starting point. I'm using, I think I'm using some of the, hang on one second, is this, I'm using a couple of the flosses, but I'm also using some DMC conversions. But that's my starting point. I'm working off of paper pattern, so I don't have a percentage, but that's my starting point with it. So this will be for Chris. And then for Flo, is going to be my bookmarks from Busilla. This one's already done. I'm going to be doing bookmark cups. That is my starting point. So I still have, I have these two done. I have 2 more up here and 2 more down here to do. This is my completed bookmark. I just have to, I wanted to finish this before I cut the fabric and finished them off. Okay, so that'll be for Flo. For James, I'm going to do Christmas ABC. This is a kit from Design Works. Artwork is by Krista Hamrick. This is my starting point. I'm currently in the candy cane block up here, but that's my starting point for that. So this will be for James. For Julia, her whip is going to be a small kit from Artiste called Gilded Birdcage. Some of these whips, not gonna lie, I purposely selected them, not for the baker themselves, but to see if I could get them closer to a finish. This is my starting point with that. It's not a very big piece, but there is a lot of stitches in it. Because some of them, if I can get them a lot closer to a finish, then they can go into my other plans for finishing. Okay, and then for Kate is going to be Halloween Letters by Primrose Cottage Stitches, designed by Lindsay Waite. Whoopsies. Drop my floss. And this is my starting point with that. So I have 2 rows left, right? Yeah, I have All Hallows Eve and then the row above it, which is Haunted House. So that will be for Kate. And then for Liam, For Liam, give me 1 second. Oh, thank God the AC just stopped. Whew, I was like getting a little chilly there. Okay, Liam is going to be James Dean, and this is by Stitching Jewels Design. And that is what that is going to look like when it's done. And since I have this in Pattern Keeper, I'll go ahead and tell you my starting point. That's my starting point with it. I would be starting off at 5,392 stitches completed. Out of 12,954, I am at 41.62%. Okay. And then for Peter, it's going to be I think I started this year, didn't I? Laundry Day. This is a kit from Dimensions. It says laundry today or naked tomorrow. I think this was one of my new starts earlier this year. This is my starting point with it. And then for Sophie is going to be Spring in the Village from Stony Creek Collection. And this is my starting point with that. I think this one, I have all 4 of them started. If you watch my regular videos, you know that I have Winter in the Village as one of my Flosstuber Frenzy whips. But I want to say Spring in the Village is the one with the least amount of progress. And then, so that was for Sophie. For Stacey is going to be Stitchography. This is from, oh, is it Fat Quarter Shop? Yeah, this was a Fat Quarter Shop exclusive for World Cross Stitch Day 2021. And I'm doing a floss conversion with some Etoile that my mom gave me. But that is my starting point. It's hard to see the glitter, but it's glittery. But that's my starting point. So this is going to be for Stacey. And then for Steven, it's going to be, hang on, I want the mock-up. There we go. Summertime by Stitch Rovia. And this is my starting point for that. And let me pull up Pattern Keeper, or pull it up, whatever, so I can tell you the percentage. I am starting off at 4,067 stitches completed out of 9,416. I am at 43.19% complete. So that will be for Steven. And then for Tom is going to be Village Inn. This is one of my Mill Hill kits, the Buttons and Beads Winter Series in their Christmas Village. This one is Village Inn. And let me show it behind, with the cover photo behind it, because it's on perforated paper. Let me move that out of the way. That's my starting point. So this will be for Tom. And then the final one is Yan. And her piece is going to be a kit from Artiste called Welcome. And that's my starting point on that one. So this will be for Yan. So that's all my whips for collection 5 for Flosstube Frenzy. Like I said, my first floss tube of the year, if I stick with the days that I'm filming, technically would be January the 2nd. I am scheduled to work in the emergency room January 1st and January 2nd. So I may or may not just take that night of January the 1st to film in like a day early so that I can announce the first, like kicking off my plans. It'll either be the 1st or the 2nd, but whichever one it ends up being, that will be when I say, okay, let's get started with week 1 of collection 5 of Bake Off, and I will tell you who gets, if anyone gets a handshake, who gets a handshake, who gets first and last in technical, who gets sent home, and who gets Star Baker. And I will let you know which ones of those need what stitches. Again, you don't have to play along if you don't want to. If you need to adjust the stitch counts, either higher or lower, or do it by time, do it by number of threads. I know Stitching Mommy, she was doing this new season like I was earlier this year, and she was doing threads because she was working on like a bunch of different projects that I don't think all of them were in Pattern Keeper or whatever, but she was doing like a length of thread for certain whatever, and so she said she might go ahead and do that again this coming year. But if you wanted to watch with me, I think Becky from Becky's Madness for Crafting, she said she was thinking about doing it, and since I'm saying who gets what, she'll listen to what I have to say, and then she's going to watch the episode. So you can always watch along as well. We're going to do 1 episode a week, and then, like I said, we'll do 2-week break, and then that 3rd week after the last episode, we will kick off the next season. I think that's everything for that. So if you have any questions about the game, then you can go ahead and leave them in the comment section down below. Like I said, I got this game from Jessie Marie over at Jessie Marie Does Stuff, so I will be tagging her down below as well, so you can go check out her channel. She does a lot of different games that are extremely adaptable to, make it your style of stitching. So if you don't already watch her, which you probably do if you watch me, but if you don't already watch her, you can go check her out. And I think that's about it. So take care, happy stitching, get a lot of stitches in, and let's get Bake Off started in just a few weeks at the beginning of January. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. See you in the next video. Bye.